All right, welcome back from lunch, everyone. Thank you, Ann. It is 2 o'clock, Department of Revenue Taxation and Valuation. Doug and Carla, would you come and join us at the table? We need to pick your brains on this one. Doug was with us at the last meeting. Carla, do you want some background on what our concerns are before we have a discussion on this?
I did watch the last meeting, but it's been a little while, so
Okay.
if you just wanted to summarize what your questions are.
Okay. First off, we have not talked as a commission about challenging the Supreme Court decision, and I don't think we can challenge the Supreme Court, so that's a good thing. Second of all was that we had started over a year ago scheduling with Department of Revenue quarterly meetings so that if there were any surprises coming up, we've been hit by a similar surprise, we would have that open communication so that we would be advised. We had a meeting with DOR in August and nothing had been mentioned. And then we got into the period where the actual day the taxes were gonna go out, October 21st, and at lunch, Doug was told, no, you can't send out the taxes. Nothing in writing, no heads up. Finally, that Friday, we did get an email message about 6 p.m. at night. Nobody's email was correct on there except for commissioners, or no, not even that one, it was just mine that was correct. Then it put our taxes late. The other thing is the different cases that made this decision were Coulter's Run here in Broadwater County and in Gallatin County, a subdivision with the initials BLM. But yet, Department of Revenue also went through and took their time before reevaluating the county, or reevaluating the county, to look at SKS, which to our knowledge never submitted an AB 26, which is a tax protest, Price Hills, Rolling Glen, and the Fritchie subdivision. Those were not at all included in the court decision. And so at this point, we feel that had the county been advised sooner, we could have at least had a standing argument against the first decision. We could have had knowledge that this was coming so that we would know about it through the budget process. So at this point, we want to know what it is that we can do. Did I miss anything? Okay.
I guess and so the question I'd like to ask you when you bring up an issue of a standing argument, have you had a conversation with an attorney who's raised that with you? Or
No.
is that just something you're raising as lay people?
It's Idiot Law 101.
Okay, well, and the reason I brought that up is, as you know, I was scheduled to meet with you, I believe it was November 25th, to discuss this, and Doug was here and a couple others. I was ill, I had surgery the following week, so that's why I was absent from that meeting. I did watch the meeting online. The inquiries that I have made, and I guess one thing I want to be clear about for the public, my office was not aware of this litigation that was pending either. I became aware of it when one of the commissioners put a copy of that in my box, I think when you received it from DOR. We were not a party to the litigation, and because we're not a party, the rules of civil procedure do not require us to be notified on a litigation by any of the parties, which would be the state of Montana Department of Revenue or the plaintiffs in the case. I do agree with what I've seen you express in the meetings, that it would have been courteous and appropriate for the Department of Revenue to give us a heads up that this was, obviously it started initially with a tax protest and moved on from there into litigation. So my office, the Office of the County Attorney, became aware of it at the same time that you did. So we didn't drop the ball or fail to do our job. As far as whether, it's my understanding from the consultations that I have had with land use attorneys through MACO, that we would not, even if we had received the opinion within the 30-day time frame for requirement to file a notice of appeal, we are not a party to the action. Therefore, the immediate view is we don't have standing. Sometimes parties can intervene under the law if they have a basis for standing, and it's my belief that we probably would not have met that requirement under the law either. district court's made a decision that contemplates the state of the law in Montana, and it's not unusual from one decision that affects one particular set of parties, in this case, Coulter's Run and Department of Revenue, for the law department, Department of Revenue, to then take that decision, analyze it. Obviously, they made the decision that there was not a basis for them to appeal beyond the district court level, and then to extrapolate it to other similarly situated subdivisions is very common practice. I mean, it's the same way it works in criminal law. If the court, Montana Supreme Court, issues a ruling on a particular issue of criminal law, with regard to, say, how you collect evidence, that applies to all future cases, not just the one that the decision applied to. So that process is very normal and natural for lawyers to engage in following a decision of the district court. So my assessment at this point is that there's nothing that the Broadwater County can do about that decision or the impact that it has on subdivisions currently existing. One thing that we might be able to discuss is whether to consider, and I think that Nicole discussed this with you briefly at the meeting in November, whether you could modify the regulations in Broadwater County that apply to creation of subdivisions such that you would limit the subdivisions in the ability to be able to revert from residential plat assessment to agricultural use. In Coulter's Run, I think the issue is that there were just a couple of actual residential lots that had been sold, and the remainder of the subdivision was unsold. Is that correct?
Actually, my understanding is more like 50%, give or take. Isn't that right? Or isn't that, I remember that vaguely from Nicole.
Yeah,
That it's
I'm not sure
pretty
on
well
Coulter's
built
Run
out.
in this case. I think it goes.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at that again, and I
I could
guess
be wrong, too.
where it is now versus where it was at the time that the litigation began might be an issue as well.
Sure,
But-
and it seems to be irrelevant anyway.
So that is one avenue, and I would have to do some more consultation with attorneys who are expert in land use law to see what kind of, I mean, there are pitfalls and advantages to every course of action. And if we were to modify our regulations to address this kind of situation, we might run into other potential bases for litigation in different areas. So that's just the nature of the beast. So that's something that, you know, after having an initial conversation with you folks about what you wanted to explore, that I would be able to try to put some time into exploring that and seeing what our options would be.
One little piece I left out of this, Carla, is the equity thing. And that is, this was only applied, as far as we can tell, just from queries, Broadwater County. Should there have been, I guess, because the decision was in Broadwater County, that's okay that we were more or less targeted?
Well, it certainly explains the initial focus of the DOR, but as I mentioned, I believe, you know, as I mentioned in the example where if you have a case that comes down that affects the way evidence is collected, it applies to all cases, all over the state, not just the place where it came down. So my understanding, and again, this is my recollection of what I heard from Nicole and from the DOR folks who met with you on the 25th, is that they are looking to whether it's going to apply in other subdivisions around the state, but Broadwater County was sort of uniquely situated at the time in that we had these subdivisions, a number of subdivisions that were created but not sold in large part, that were in this situation of reverting to agricultural use based on the failure to sell the majority of the plats. So that's, I believe, why it started with a focus here, but no, they can't pick and choose to apply a decision only in one county and not in others. Not unless there's a specific situation with regard to that county that creates the legal question that doesn't exist elsewhere.
So it would be too simple to think that this applying beyond Coulter's Run should have been a statewide with a target date versus in fiscal year 14, we're gonna hit Broadwater County, and then maybe in 15 or 16, we'll hit the rest of the county, 55 counties. that seems to be what happened. Is that legally okay?
I believe that if I recollect how they're applying it, they have the ability under the law to go retro a certain number of years. Isn't that how they've applied it here in Broadwater County, where the valuation has gone? It's not just this year.
But for Department of Revenue, I believe they only go back 1 year.
Okay, so I'm not sure what their policy is. I would be happy to consult with legal department, DOR, to find out where they're going with that. It is certainly of interest for us to have some concern about that, but I think our focus obviously is on what we do here in Broadwater County in response to this new situation created by the district court judge's opinion.
And of course, my reason for asking is not because I want others to jump in the stew with us and bubble and boil with us, but because if the rest of the state is waiting until 2015, I would like Broadwater County to be in the same 2015 bucket. I do not feel that it's correct that our taxes were put off by a month, so that Broadwater County could be targeted individually, and then the rest of the counties worked on as they could. I just feel that, I guess again, back to equity, I feel that since they went beyond the decision, like you said, to apply this across the board, it should be applied across the board fairly. And so this should start for Broadwater County the same time it starts for every other subdivision in every other county, if that's possible. Maybe too late, but I at least want the question out there. So one of the other things that I would like to do, and if there's nothing we can do to change this, I understand that, but the way Broadwater County has been treated by Department of Revenue is reprehensible in my opinion. They lost a court case that we, our citizens, are gonna have to pay for. We did do everything we could to try and open up communication and relationships. Can we send a letter? Is there something more we can do than just send a letter of complaint over the issue to leadership at Department of Revenue? Any advice or any ideas you guys have as far as how to address this?
My recollection of the meeting that you had with DOR on the 25th, and I believe there was one earlier than that as well, when you first became aware of the situation, is that they provided an apology and an acknowledgement.
No apology?
Oh.
No.
Did they acknowledge that it wasn't?
Nope. It was a very short, rather terse email that said, this is your instruction in writing to stop your tax process at this point.
No, I mean, at a commission meeting where the DOR, I believe the gal's name is Judy, was
Yeah.
here,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a gentleman as well. I
Yes.
think that was on, maybe it wasn't the 25th, maybe it was earlier in October. But my recollection of that meeting, and I'd have to go back and watch it again, was that there was some acknowledgement that it wasn't the best. I mean, you expressed frustration about the way things unfolded, and they acknowledged, that wasn't the best practice or the best situation. I mean, I think they're probably going to be reticent about how they word, their responses there, but I guess, I can look into the situation for you, but as far as a county challenging the practices of the Department of Revenue, I mean, I don't think that our options are very, I don't think we have a lot of options there. We can express, I think it's fair, and I think you did that in that meeting. I don't know if what you're looking to do is to express them higher up the food chain, or what it is you're asking to do.
I don't think they went any higher up the food chain personally from what we've seen. So I guess, I guess I'm looking for, is there a way to make sure that there is somebody else aware of what happened here rather than, I guess, rather than just keeping it here. I would like to see this never happen again, and if there's something that Broadwater County can do to assist ourselves in the future or another county in the future from being treated the way we were, I would like to do that.
Did you discuss with them at that time what you had, my understanding is there was a discussion of having these quarterly meetings, but they weren't always held, is that correct?
They were held
Okay,
pretty
so,
much by the book.
so the issue was just that you weren't informed of ongoing tax protests?
Yeah, we had had the meeting specifically so that we would be informed of such a thing, and despite that, we were still kept in the dark. And I guess I'll just be blunt, our follow-up meeting was not one where there was a lot of trust back and forth because of this issue. And that's why I'd like to see this go further. And even if it's just a letter of, to inform, it's better than nothing. But that's my thinking. I'd like to do more, but if that's all we can do, I don't feel comfortable doing nothing. And I don't think that's responsible. This just simply is not right the way it was handled.
Well, I think the truth of the matter is, we feel like the red-headed stepchild.
That our citizens are picking up the bill for.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you wanted to raise as concerns for me to follow up on?
I'd like to know, Madam Chairman,
Yeah?
if in fact there are other subdivisions in our county that are being looked at so that we're kind of aware. Madam Chair, Doug, I have one question. How much confusion did it cause in your office with two different tax dates due?
It causes quite a bit of confusion, actually. We had numerous calls, people wondering where their tax bills were to begin with, and then once they came out, we had a lot of calls, even though the due date is printed on the bill. We had people wondering, well, are they still gonna be due the same time? As far as my office personally, we knew, the people working on what was going on, but the citizens were kind of confused with it, wondering what was going on. And mortgage companies, there's a lot of mortgage companies that handle quite a few parcels. We're wondering, when the bills would be due, because they have amounts that they withdraw from their clients' accounts each month, and they were wondering what amounts to withdraw. And so, yeah, so it was kind of a hornet's nest there for a little while.
Madam Chair, as a rancher, I'll just take off and put on a different half a minute. Of course, we had the land, and that one wasn't due until the 9th of December, if I remember correctly. The one on the cattle was due the end of November. And so I thought, well, I'll bet that being as the land one went out late, I can pay this a day or two late. No, I got charged interest because they were two different things.
Yeah, and a lot
And
of
it was my
people-
own fault, but I questioned whether,
Right, and a lot of people do that. There are a lot of people that will have a mobile home in with their taxes, and the mobile homes are 6 months different. The second payment of the mobiles is due when the first payment of the reals is due, so they'll just wait and pay all of them at the same time. And we did run into that on a few of them where they just waited with their mobiles to pay it with their reels.
What are the rules for subdivisions that haven't sold any houses yet to be able to go back into ag?
I can't answer that question, that's more of a Department of Revenue.
Now, can I ask Judy that question?
Sure,
Judy,
sure.
what are the rules for subdivisions that don't have any homes sold, but the power is in, the roads are in, all those things? What is the ruling so that they can come out and be back into ag land?
Based on that legal notice, the judicial notice that came out, is that they have to be qualified for that as the best and highest use. And so we can't use covenances. So going forward, that would be based on the use of the parcel. So we will not take into consideration of covenances. So for an order prior to the district court decision, it was based on what their covenances had said, based on the determination of revenue on how to process these parcels, trying to follow their covenances. So prior to that, we would have had to follow covenants. After the legal decision that was made, now we base it on the actual use of the parcel. So all parcels that would be considered agricultural would be affected by that decision going after we receive our legal decision from management or from the legal department, after this has completed its resolution for how they're going to determine the process for ongoing forward subdivisions. And so we're still waiting to see how we're going to classify all subdivisions once we get legal decision.
And they are applying that to all of Montana, not just this county.
I believe that would be applied statewide, but I would have to defer back to the legal counsel on that. One other clarification that I'd like to just, if I could, make is that that legal decision, that judicial legal decision, was provided to the Department of Revenue at the same time that it was provided to Broadwater County, and that can be checked with your district court. So we received a copy the same time you received a copy of that
Actually,
legal
if that
decision.
went to the clerk of court, that wouldn't have come to the commission or the attorney, so that's not exactly an accurate statement. The commission, county attorney were never advised by Department of Revenue, so that is not true.
So the information was provided to the county, I should clarify that.
I
The
think-
legal decision was provided to the county, and I believe,
If I could just interject, I think the confusion there is, the clerk of court received the decision from the judge, yes, at the same time that it was provided to DOR and Holter's Run attorneys. But these ladies, they have a sign in their office, they can't provide legal advice. They're specifically prohibited from attempting to interpret the law or read the law, and quite frankly, I think with their workload, they don't have the opportunity, they're not taking time to read through these decisions. And as I mentioned before, and I think maybe it was before Judy walked in the room, because we were not a party to the action, there's no affirmative obligation through the rules of civil procedure for us to have been noticed on that decision, for her to have, she was not required to bring us a copy, and having not read it, she wouldn't have known that it was anything that the county needed to know about. So I think the concern of the commission is wishing that DOR had said, hey, maybe you'd like to know about this and be thinking about it in the same time frame that we were.
and again, I understand, and then we were here in a commissioners meeting, and we did address the fact that we were held to legal's decision on that. We received that information about the same time that we had been here at a commissioners meeting. There had been no legal decision, so I couldn't disclose, because I didn't know how legal was going to process that information. So it wasn't that I neglected intentionally to not provide the commissioners with that information. It was just that legal had not determined, because they have 30 days from the date of the notice to respond, and they hadn't responded at the time that I was here at the commissioners meeting. So I do take a little offense that I had purposely not provided that information. I just wasn't privy to it at that time because legal hadn't responded back to us. So, and I responded as soon as I knew as timely as they gave me the information back. I think I responded within 2 days, 3 days, because I believe there was a weekend involved in there, so,
I would like to redirect this around to
Okay.
what can we do on a proactive basis. I think we're getting a little bit too far into the weeds of he said, she said, right now. So, are there any more questions, that we have for Carla to follow up on? Any more that we would like to pursue in trying to make this as right for our county as we can? And any advice you might have at this point, Carla? I know you have to do some checking, so that's probably not a fair question. But I do want to bring it back around to what can we do at this point to try and make this as right as possible?
Well, I guess there are two things I want to say. First of all, and I want to be clear, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I certainly, in understanding the process and the way it works, I doubt very much that the local office or even the regional office at this level was aware of what that ruling was going to mean until legal did release that to them. So our beef, if we have one, is with legal at DOR for not keeping us in that loop. And I think, you know, we work really closely with the DOR folks here, and it's important to place, to some extent, to place the blame where it belongs so we don't have any hard feelings. I think that if they had known, they probably would have told us, but unless they were directed not to say something. And employees have to follow the direction of the legal departments that supervise them. So that's a fair assessment of, I think, what happened here. As far as what do we do, it may be that there's nothing we can do. I will look into the questions that you've given me and speak again with the land use attorney through MACO about whether there is any meaningful proactive measures we can take. But sometimes you just get lumps from the court system and you have to deal with them. That's the way it is. And, you know, if the DOR made a decision not to challenge this, then I can only assume that that decision was made after careful consultation with their best legal minds and that there's not a legal basis to challenge it. And if that's the case, then this is the law, and this is the law we have to live with now, not just in Broadwater County, but elsewhere. And so it may just be a matter of the commission, you know, rethinking the approach to what expectations we have of tax base based on subdivisions that are approved but largely unsold. And in any case, I don't have definitive answers to those questions, but like any good lawyer, I just want to caution you to expect the worst and be pleasantly surprised if I have better news when I get back to you. Unfortunately, there isn't necessarily going to be we can get this tax revenue back, or we can, I certainly hope we might be able to address the communication issue, and hopefully get a commitment from DOR able to keep us in the loop a little bit earlier if such a situation arises in the future. But this is sort of like the horse is out of the barn on this one, and it may just be a matter of lessons learned. Again, I don't believe that we missed an opportunity to make a different outcome occur.
No, I don't either. But I am irritated by the communication tremendously. So when you look at the dates, it certainly tells a story that is not a pleasant one.
Well, and especially after the budgets were set, we knew what the value was,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't.
Yeah, no, you know, it's one of those things where I think we understand that you cannot just give us the answer we want. You have to give us the answer that is honest and true. I did make the clarification today, but I have in the past, and our local DOR representatives and employees have nothing to do with this. This came down from above. Okay, I guess I've got nothing else.
Commissioners Gravely and Slivka, any other things you'd like me to follow up on?
No,
related to this?
I think that you've got it all.
As you know, we're sort of in a little bit of upheaval next door this week, but I will do my best to try to get some calls out and get some answers, and I guess if you could, at least give me a heads up when you're thinking about putting it on the agenda again. I will try to get back to you within a month with some kind of, responses to these concerns. We're a long ways off from the next budget season, although it does creep up faster than you think, so, if it seems like there's anything that we can do in a proactive way, I'll try to get that working with you as quickly as possible, but I do anticipate from the review I've done so far that it's really just going to be a situation that we have to manage and to budget around, rather than something that can be changed in any meaningful way.
That part doesn't surprise me. I expect that there wasn't anything we can do, but,
We just wished we could.
yeah, and I think it's important that our citizens know that, we're fighting for them, even if it is just a letter, discussing the treatment of Broadwater County. That's all we can do, that's all we can do. Thank you very much for your
Thank
time,
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Doug, very much. And if you two have any any further input, or any input, Franklin, that you want to bring forward, certainly in the next month as Carmen's working on this, would be a good time. I'm just not content doing nothing. So, next on the agenda, 2:30. Nicole will not be here at 2:45. Nick and Mike are not available at 3 o'clock or 3:15. Would it be okay with you two to call those two early and see if they are available?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Did I do
Amber, she asked me if they're available to come. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
So,
Mike might be across the hall.
those papers you gave us regarding the email on TV,
Yeah,
where did I put them?
nowhere, they're right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought, how did I lose them so quick?
there's two different, stacks, one for each of you. Just a heads up, before we get to the TV district meeting, Charlie is our TV guy anymore. We used to have.
It's not?
Is, yes. He stepped in after months of searching. This is something that is very specialized. There's very few people in the state that do it. He's been awesome. He took over for John Mazzell when he just disappeared on us. We didn't know where he went. He sent an email to commissioners, and I went ahead and responded. Basically what he said to start was, your licenses are due, and I'd be happy to take care of that for you. To which I said, yes, please, and thank you. And then this all came up, followed up with, there's been some complaints about CBS and some requests for PBS. And these are just the emails that he sent after coming up to the TV tower and some of the things we need to be working on. And so if you get a chance to read it before the TV meeting portion of our agenda.
Doug is going to call him since he's on his way downstairs
Oh,
anyway.
thank you. While we're waiting, you guys wanna do some mail?
Sure.
All right. We have that sink quote for the senior center. Franklin, you were going to do some looking to see if you could beat the $220 freight charge. Any luck on that?
I talked with Mike on it, and nobody had anything in stock, so And we stuck with it.
Okay, and of course, this quote came from Mike. So how do you guys want to address this? This is a 3-compartment sink that is required by the sanitarian as per Montana state law. The cost is $475 for the sink, $68 for the faucet, $69, and then shipping, because we don't have any here, and Franklin just reiterated there's none in stock, freight of $221. Total of $764.82. What is your thinking?
I think it's required and therefore we need to go forth with it. None of us like the cost of the transportation to get it here, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Franklin, any thoughts, any input?
Same as Elaine.
Okay, do either of you want to make a motion that we move forward in getting this taken care of?
I'll see you.
Okay? And any thoughts as to where we should take the money from?
What is in the senior center budget?
I don't know, I didn't bring my budget with me again. Do you want to readdress it next week when we have a budget with us? Or, excuse me, 2 weeks?
I think so.
Okay? So we will table this.
If that's okay with
Fine
everybody.
as maybe. It's gonna be good, one way or the other.
Pardon me?
It's gonna be done one or the other, so it doesn't matter which either comes line.
All right, we have a couple of claims that just need to be signed. They're part of the claims pile, but because they are commissioners, we need a signature, because the chair should not be signing as well as initialing. So, there's three. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Nick's at physical therapy.
Oh, he is. Okay, do you wanna,
We'll just wait until he's here.
okay, if he gets here before we're done, do you wanna pop in, otherwise we'll recess till tomorrow at 10?
Yeah, or we can do it on the 13th. Or is it the 13th? No, it's not 13th.
It would be the 18th.
Either way, whatever.
Okay. We'll recess till tomorrow at 10 unless we hear from you two.
Okay.
Otherwise, how's that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
All right,
all
thanks.
right, thanks, Mike. And that, of course, was cleared with the commission prior to making that option available.
What's scheduled for tomorrow at 10?
Nick Corthals and Mike Myers are on the agenda at 3:15. For budget proposal for the detention center maintenance and personnel needs. And Nick had physical therapy, so he was unable to come today at 3, but he's at physical therapy now at 2. So we had talked about the urgency he felt in addressing this issue. So we talked earlier about recessing till 10 tomorrow if they were unable to come today. So I just
Will
put
he be out
that,
of therapy in time to come, Nick?
he might, if he is, he and Mike will come on up.
So what we have is Broadwater Reporter for 2 different times. One is an agenda, and the other one is agenda and agendas and public hearing. And one is Northwest Energy for the ambulance building.
Need a motion on that?
Mhm.
Make a motion, go ahead and pay these.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the 3 claims that need signatures. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
You want to sign it for
Sure, it doesn't matter.
you. All right, we have claims for voucher date 1/28 in the amount of 56,935.65.
Make a motion on?
Sure,
I'll make a motion to pay.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to pay the approved claims in the amount of 56,935.65. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I did.
You do.
All right, motion carries, and we need 3 signatures. No, she's gonna change it for the next one. And we have payroll for pay date 1/31/2014 in the amount of $148,185.63.
I'll make a motion that we pay payroll with a pay date of 1/31/14, $148,185.63.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to pay payroll for 148,185.63. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we have a updated salary resolution. We did this last week, and somehow the changes that were made did not get saved, and so we actually signed an old salary resolution. And what we have is, we need to get the new one. Here it is. All we need to do is sign and approve a new salary resolution for 2014. It includes the raise in the hourly, which was by law, from $7.80 to $7.90. Now it is for seasonal. And then also it did remove the reserve deputies from the salary line item. So those are the changes.
Do we need a motion or we just,
We do need a motion, yeah.
I'll make a motion then we sign the salary resolution for fiscal year 2014.
How come the reserve deputies were taken off?
State law says they can't be paid.
We discussed that with Brenda last Wednesday at some length.
Mako brought it to our attention, our insurance people did.
I know the paid below. Is this county or statewide then?
Are they what?
Because they're paid in other counties.
No, they're not.
They're not. Mako says they're not.
Well, unless something just took place in the last year or so, they always were.
Okay, they may have been before, but Mako has said, no, you can't. So,
So do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign the amended, updated salary resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
it.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we'll need some signatures. I think there's a spot for all 3 of us.
Need to sign. Get out your fancy tune. Did you do that in school? Is that how you sign?
No, I used to write then, but Now I forget everything when it comes to writing, is there just one of these to sign or two?
I think just one.
Oh, okay.
And another public hearing isn't required, just like an amended, budget.
The one that comes to mind is Helen Busey.
Thank you.
She was it.
Oh, yeah. I did have it with cats.
Oh, didn't you?
See, I was in Boston, Corporal.
Oh, sure.
And at her study halls, I had her in high school. Home run one year.
I had her for
Thanks,
senior
Ann.
English and then for Latin when I
Mhm.
was a sophomore.
Okay, next on the agenda is Nicole Brown, planner, 88 minor subdivision, final plat approval, and that will be postponed due to a personal emergency. So we have an extra appointment at 3 o'clock, so maybe we can get through all the mail. What we have, these were brought to us from Doug, and these are frequently asked questions regarding the need put together in the 1972 Constitution for the state of Montana for counties to hold a local government review. The citizens decide if A, they want to have a review of the local government, the type of government, and different questions with that, and also how much money to use to fund the local government. So we need to put this out as an advertisement in the legals, but before we do that, we should think about inserting a dollar or mil amount, and how many members do you want on the review team. We can leave those empty for now and just take public comment and then decide. But just like the budget, it would be more appropriate to insert something and then bring it forward for debate and rebuttal through the public process. And there were, I have one here if you didn't see it, there was a model sent out from NACO. Model resolution. I think it was the '07 legislature that changed. 10 years ago when this was done, there were two questions on the ballot. One is, do you want a county review team? And the separate question, how much do you want to pay for it? Or do you want to pay for it? The first question was answered affirmatively, yes, we want it. The second question was, no, we don't want to pay for it. And that was done all over the state. So the legislature actually put it together into one ballot question. And the wording is from the statute directly, 7-3-173.
You know, the study commission is how Broadwater County got into having nonpartisan elected officials.
Mhm. I served the first one.
Did you? I was
Me
clerk
and-
and recorder when,
Was it
Mhm.
me and Ted Flynn and Doug Christie? And
so
Bill
there was only
Duty-
3
Bill-
members then.
Yeah, Bill Duty represented the commissioners.
Mhm.
And we voted to leave things as they were that time.
It must have been a later one than when they, probably in the 80s.
Yeah, that one would have been, I don't know what year they had the first one there, in the early 70s, I suppose. Because it was the Constitutional Convention that started this, and that was held in 72, wasn't it?
Mhm.
So, but after that, that was the first one, then, I don't know what took place on those later ones, then.
Well, I know that I was clerk when they said all the elected officials were nonpartisan, other than legislature.
Yeah, okay, so that was
So it was
a
probably
couple
82.
commissions later, probably, when that took place.
Okay.
but-
I'll make a motion and we'll go with this.
And what would you like to do about the dollar amount or the mill amount and the number of members?
Well, at that time, I did just pay mileage to come into the meetings. I think we had 3 meetings that time. So I said, I think just, mileage to come into the,
Madam Chair,
Yes,
there
ma'am.
will be other expenses because they will have, notices in the paper and stuff, so just mileage isn't gonna cover it.
I actually spoke to a couple of the members of the last county review team. They, like I said, many counties did this. Yes, we want a county review. No, we don't want to pay for it. So what that does is it kind of sets you on a track of, okay, we're not going to do anything. What this group tried to do is implement some changes that they thought were important. They did put it on the ballot. It did fail, but they had no budget. They did their own printing. They came up with money to do their own mailings. That is unfair to ask volunteers to do. That's why the legislature changed this for us. We have to insert a dollar amount and a mill amount. According to the, you know what, I'm gonna let each of us do our own homework on this, but I think we need to be responsible to the citizens. If they want this, then there has to be a responsible amount to pay for it. I think we can put 0 in there, or we can put just, $100 or so for mileage. And I guess that's gonna have to be how we see it, if that is what we want to ask our county review team for.
But if we put in for 1 mil, and any that's left over goes to the general fund in the end of the year, when it's all said and done, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
yeah, what does that
Yeah.
mean?
If you put in 1 mil,
Yeah,
and at the end of the year, whatever's left goes to the general fund, that they don't spend.
yeah, I wouldn't think they spent 13,000 on.
I wouldn't think so, but just to make sure that they've got everything covered.
And if you guys wanna call some of those older members who served, and maybe come up with something, we can revisit this. We still need to advertise it. So maybe we'll just leave it blank and,
And the only oldest one that's left now, then.
what's
Ted and
that?
Doug are
Yeah.
both gone. We should talk to oldest members.
There's been at least 2 since then, Frank.
Yeah, I know, but I said the oldest one. Nothing any different than
That means you're getting old, doesn't
I
it?
know.
All right, we will go ahead and advertise, even though this is blank. And,
Is there a vote on that?
no,
We're required to do it.
excuse me?
I say we're required to do it.
That is correct. And I think we're required to do it responsibly, whatever that means. And I'm gonna,
Do you want a motion then?
sure, a motion for what though? I
To
mean,
put it on the ballot,
Okay,
and I'm gonna go further.
okay,
3 members on the,
okay. 3 members. And for the dollar amount, do we want to,
To be determined.
we can do that.
Well, you could just make a provision that cover all legal advertising and so on.
Franklin, you have this in front of you, right? You do, I see it over there. What it says is, insert the dollar or mill amount. There isn't a provision for rewording that. Like I said before, this comes from MCA, and the MCA is 73173, and it is the language that the legislature has told us we must put on the ballot. So we can't change that wording.
if we put in $1,000, I mean, is that a fair amount? Is that too much, not enough?
I'd say it's plenty. I mean, we're gonna have some of the expenses in the paper, pay the people mileage. And that should be it, right?
I would think so.
I feel like we're shooting in the dark, and I'll tell you why. We've gone from 0 to a mill to $1,000. What is it that somebody would need to do? The past study review commission wanted to have mailings That's what, 900 for the county? Countywide?
I have no idea.
Roundabout, say it's 900. I could be high, it could be low. Mileage, how many meetings are they gonna have? We don't know that yet. Public meetings, advertising in the paper, legals. What's the cost, how many will there be? I know the past one had at least 3. All of those are open to the public. So now you've got, advertising for those as well. I'm gonna suggest that we each do our homework, call some people. If they're dead, don't call them Franklin. You can call ones that are still living, who serve sense, and see if we can get some solids and some response from what they experienced. And then revisit this during the public hearing process. It's not, I think
And
it's,
we're putting in a to be determined.
no. We can't. It says insert dollar or mill amount. We can't change that. So,
Well, and in listening, when you think about it, 1,000 isn't enough.
well, it depends. What do we want this study commission to do? Do we want to empower them to actually do something, to determine if there is something they think should be done and then to do it? Or do we want to just make sure that we're just barely following so that we look like we're putting together a good show? Those are our 2 choices. I think we need to be sincere to the Constitution, as that is who we took an oath to, and I think we need to be responsible to our citizens. Perhaps there is something they would like to see changed, and if we make it so that it's impossible for them to do that, then we have not done a service to our citizens.
Well, I'll make it possible.
I think then that the 3 of us need to do some digging and find out.
How about this? I'm gonna leave these blank. We 3 need to do some homework. And we will have 15 minutes before a public hearing on this where we put something in there so that the citizens have a place to start from during the public hearing. Does that sound okay to the commission?
It does to me.
All right. We won't take a vote on that then, but we will start advertising as is required by law. And that's tabled, 3 o'clock. Okay, we're 1 minute to 3, we have the TV district, meeting. Did you guys get a chance to read the emails?
That's the one that just come here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me finish reading it.
Again, just so that you know, Charlie sent these emails to the Broadwater County Commissioners. I did respond back, and then that's how he and I started corresponding back and forth. Anybody at any time can certainly jump in. One thing with our contractors, we are the people who work with them. We never send any member of the public to our contractors because it costs the county a lot of money to do that. And oftentimes it's something we could have helped them with. just so that you folks know, the status of the TV is, we had to renew our FCC licenses. That was done in December. Excuse me. There was a issue with digital, Montana PBS and CBS. He fixed those. There were some interference issues with KTVM, and that was also, that is being worked on. That's Channel 6 in Butte. There were some issues with some fans that were not working and cooling systems that had failed, and that's what was adding to the problem. During the first cold spell we had right after Thanksgiving, Charlie was out at the TV tower working on that. He spent about 2 weeks here getting everything put together that needed to be done for the TV. The TV district, it's out of the sand hill, and so that there's a circumference of who it hits. Doesn't hit the entire county. If you're in the TV district, you pay $11 a year, if I'm not mistaken, for TV service. If you're not in the district, you probably are not getting TV and you're not paying for it. So, these are just updates. There is an issue where he is trying to work with one of the channels, and it is KTVM. And if he can't figure that out by working with Butte, we may have to look at either canceling the CW to make sure we have ABC and Fox, or hopefully he can get something worked out. So that's about it. The only other thing is there is a TV, he'd like to take 2 different stations and put them on a Channel 4 translator, and there's an encoder that's required for that, and he does quote a price of $9,900 if we need to go that direction. So this is all pending at this point, but what we should do as a TV district is A, be aware of what's going on, and B, at least discuss authorizing this discount or meeting. Meeting would be better with Charlie after we know what the status is of his meeting with the folks in Butte. We should also follow up with him as soon as we can, or as soon as he has information for us about the situation with ABC and Fox and CW and the Butte channel.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
This probably sounds stupid, but I have a dish, so I have no idea what channels we get here in Townsend. So what are they?
There is a list on one of the emails. Channel 49-1 is Montana PBS, and that's in HD. That was a request by a citizen, and Charlie got it for us at no additional cost. 49-2 is PBS Kids. 49-3 is PBS Create. 49-4 is PBS World. And 49-5 is Montana Legislature. Beyond that, we don't have the numbers, but we do have CBS coming out of Butte. ABC and Fox right now are also both coming out of Butte. CW we do get out of Helena, and it's not on that same translator, but we also have a channel coming out of Butte. So if we had to get rid of the CW, we'd be down to 1 rather than 2. Is there a channel I'm missing? An NBC comes out of Helena. Years ago, they did not pursue the ones we have coming out of Helena just to save on cost.
Well, people that have cable, does this affect them?
Yes. I think so. Cable, I think so, but I'm not sure. I am not much of a TV watcher, so I'm not the biggest expert on this. We do get these channels barely at my house because we're just on the outside line of the district. I think we're paying, but all we get is snow. And we have a dish, so you can get both, I would imagine, with cable. It works the same, you just have to have it's not rabbit ears, but it's you get it at Radio Shack, and it allows you to get the channels. It's a digital rabbit ear system. Does that make sense?
Do you have a dish or do you?
Got a dish, but I get the locals, I think it's $5 a month, $5. Maybe that's what it is, I get, well, there's at least 4 local, and there's some that Fox and some of those others that come around there.
I do too, but I have to pay extra for them.
It was about like $5.
No, mine's like $29 a month.
Was that right? I thought it was $5 a month is all we're paying out there. Of course, we're not in this district, and we get some of that stuff that are pretty much direct.
Well, besides that, I mean, I have ABC, CBS, NBC, East Coast and West Coast in addition.
Oh, I don't know if East Coast, I don't know if I have that or not, but, and I think PBS is on there too.
Yes.
And this would be TV that you could get if you didn't have a dish. The most simple way to explain it. This is just one of the services that we provide as a county, and is a very popular one with the citizens. So, any questions, any more questions?
So where are we at right now then?
Everything is working right now. We got all our FCC licenses renewed, so that's good. The issue that we have with John Mazzell is being worked on by Charlie with Butte TV, and at this point, we haven't got an update on where he's at. Depending on what he finds, we will either need to buy an encoder, or we will need to replace CW if we can do that through Butte. So we have a couple of questions that are coming up, but at this point, all the TV is working as of mid-December.
Yeah.
So if there's no other questions,
Are
we
you
can.
in the district? Do you get, from these boost up, do you get the TV from that, or?
I don't think so.
So it must not be a very big area. We don't have cost anything, so must be just kind of in town here mostly?
No, I think it stretches out further than that.
Anybody
I'm
know?
not sure.
And on this, on the TV district, does anybody experience any problems, have any questions, have any comments? All right. Most of us don't rely on this. Those who do, when there is disruption, we do hear about it.
Mhm.
So it's important to keep it going. And we've already got the money in a budget, so. All right, nothing more? All right, we'll just table this then till we have more information, and then we'll have another meeting and decide what to do. Unless there's anything else. All right. Next appointment, chances are, is going to be canceled. We have 5 minutes. The only other thing I brought that needs to go in for a public hearing is this. This is the Broadwater County Elected Official Succession Plan. I have copies for you guys. I sent this to every one of our elected officials and to Mike Saystad, who has our insurance through MACO. So anything we do, of course, has to have the insurance's approval, or else the insurance will say, no, we're not going to support you guys. So, basically, this is very simple. It's 4 pages, but it's mostly MCA. This is just a policy to have a process and procedure for replacing any elected official. The succession plan started off, as we talked last week, about just a plan to replace a commissioner. something to complement MCA but give us more direction on how to do it. Mike read it and he said, you know, this is probably a good idea to include all the elected officials, so I did change it to reflect his input. It doesn't supersede MCA, it actually goes hand in hand with MCA. And basically, the beginning is just an intro, pages 2 and 3 are MCA. And then the plan itself is to set forth an advertising, a time frame for advertising. And of course, we put together a job description so that people would have an understanding of what a county commissioner does or what a justice of the peace does. It would establish a structure for interviewing, something that is open to the public, since this is a public servant. A way to keep the public involved, but also maintain civility in the process and not give one applicant a leg up over another due to treatment by the audience. And then the last one is, it establishes an advisory board of all the elected officials, and they would be involved in the interviews through this process, as well as publicly sharing their recommendations for who is best qualified for the position. For MCA, the decision still falls to the commissioners, but you would still have 5 or 6, depending on your structure, input from other elected officials, so that it couldn't be one of those where it would be, there's more structure to ensure more responsibility in the process. So unless you guys have anything to change, and if you support it, I'd like to put this also in a legal ad for a public hearing when we come back from NACO. Sure, take your time.
Well, we don't have to decide on it right now anyway, so.
No, but Mike's suggestion was, and I agree with him, this is something that probably should have been done years ago, and with the fact that this is something Lewis and Clark County went through, Gallatin County, Jefferson County, Marr County, all in the last year or so, it's not a bad idea for us to have a process. Certainly there's reasons to wait on some things, but unless there's a reason, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go ahead and just get our job done instead of just tabling more. A citizen commented that our tabled list is getting longer than our agenda. I don't want to go back to that.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, are you so in support of putting this then on the agenda for a public hearing?
Yep.
Okay. Anything you want to add or subtract, Franklin?
No, I don't see anything.
Okay.
Don't make any difference to me, I guess, it's just
You're
just some more.
strictly out of the codes.
Yeah, it still ends up with, the MCA code, so actually we'll just waste our time doing any of this here.
I also move.
All right. Will you second, Franklin? I will second. It's been moved and seconded to go ahead and move forward with submitting the elected official succession plan to a public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No,
Opposed? Franklin?
there's already a plan for everything now.
Excuse me?
There's already a plan for everything now. Just talk
Actually,
about
there
more
isn't.
bureaucracy.
No, Franklin, if you read this, you'll find that's absolutely not the case. But just sit down and take a look at it, give it a read-through. The 3:15 is canceled. We will recess until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, unless there's anything else for the good of the order.
And what else
Okay.
now first for tomorrow besides,
Excuse me?
Okay, now what's for tomorrow then?
Tomorrow, if you look at your agenda, the last thing there at 8:15 says Nick Corthol's Detention Center and Mike Myers Maintenance, budget proposal for detention center maintenance and personnel needs, officer and transportation.
It isn't on mine.
When we
Mine
got,
either, but I think I printed the wrong, didn't print the second one.
yeah, when we got together at our last meeting, and we were meeting with Nick at the time, he asked if we could expedite this. We said, yes, we can. And per Nick's request, we added a revised agenda, and that's what we added onto the agenda
So Nick's gonna be here tomorrow then
at 10 o'clock with Mike. So, anything else for the good of the order? I'm just gonna make one quick comment for the record. I would like this to be on record. One of our most important charges that we have is treating everyone equitably. Every employee needs to be treated the same, and every citizen needs to be treated the same and with the same amount of respect. So, with that, if there's nothing else for the good of the
Well,
order?
yeah, if we're gonna add some more things, on that, deal with the turning lanes, I said it took place before, you said it was '05, well, I got it right here in May of '11 when you signed that agreement on the turning lane, so.
That's an amendment to the agreement. An amendment to the agreement takes the original agreement
I
from
got it all right here.
2005.
I got it all right here.
That's right. It takes the original agreement from 2005, Franklin, and it extends it, it amends it, it changes it. That's what you have there.
Go ahead, you can say whatever you want, but we know what it is.
Franklin, you need to start looking at the facts. You don't get to create your own reality. This
I
meeting
agree, I
is,
have to.
Could it, was I on the agenda tape for 2?
no,
And they sent me out the wrong agenda? Okay, I just wanted to
No.
make sure I wasn't missing the quarterly for us. 'cause I
no,
thought-
we
I
need to
received
make sure
one
that that's scheduled though.
Right, I received one that said that I was on the agenda today for 2. I wasn't aware of it, so I came for 2 o'clock. But I just wanted to make sure that they're,
I don't know what that would have been.
okay. So can we just have somebody contact me then and set us up for the quarterlies for 2014? If I could put that request out there. And seeing how I'm here, is there any questions that I could answer while I'm here before quarterly? I just wanna offer it before, and I know you're trying to adjourn, but
Are there any surprises coming at us?
I just wanted to give you just that they're still working on that, that question that we had talked about earlier. I just was asked to refer you back to Dan White. They're still making the legal decisions on that, and I just wanted to provide you with his phone number if you wanted to have any contact with him, maybe prior to our next meeting. And his phone number is 444-3340. Regarding the subdivision issue is who you would contact in regards to that. And then if I could just also request that if I'm put on the agenda, that if you have topics that you'd like to discuss, if I could get an email like the day before or something, so I can come prepared with MCA or code or any of the specific details, so that I can just present a copy to each one of the or the commissioners. That would be helpful, so that I can have documentation enough for everybody who would like to see it. So that's it. Sorry, I just thought I was on the agenda today, so.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, meeting is recessed until tomorrow morning at 10. And we'll probably head downstairs.
Yeah.
Be possible. All the revenue, the ethical revenue,
Mhm.
subdivision
TV stuff.
problems.
Mhm.